This episode of the Gab Street Podcast is sponsored by It's All Been Done Radio Hour and Michaela Thomas. We're happy to welcome IABD back as a returning sponsor. Michaela's new book, Stripped to My Truth, releases September 24th. Now on to the show. You're listening to the Gab Street Podcast, Columbus, Ohio's #1 podcast for underground talent. Every week we have new conversations with interesting individuals who contribute to the Columbus economy and its lively culture. You may find just what you're looking for right in your backyard. Let's get right into it.
Stylistic thing.
Yeah.
Which is cool, unless you're going to do something like this, and then you can't be understood. Or you're going to have difficulty, or you're going to have a lot of, what do you call it? Not feedback, but you're just going to be, overexposed, so, yeah.
Yeah, kind of mumbly.
How have those interviews been going?
It's been going pretty well.
That's awesome.
Whenever there are audio issues, I'll release my process to the audience. I slap a normalizer on it, I slap a compressor on it, and then a limiter. And I have all those set to very specific values.
Yeah,
and then,
it's like your template.
But yeah, essentially. Yeah. Doing that every episode brings it to the quality that it's at.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm sure that there are ways to improve the process, but I'm using what I have access to at the moment, and people have not complained yet. So,
that's awesome, man. That's great, man.
Maybe,
that's very cool.
Maybe I should go back and listen and tune up my own process.
Well, you learn as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't release my first album again in the current state.
Yeah.
I would take it off the market, and I can't do that. But if I could, I would take it off the market, remix it.
For what reasons?
Remaster it. Probably replay some stuff because it wasn't as clean as it could be. You learn. You just learn. I didn't have a bunch of people surrounding me as a team to say, you're not doing it right, or I had to learn as I go, or I had to learn it for myself, and we all wear our own hat, all these different hats now, right?
Yeah.
So you're learning how to do this stuff as you go, are you not?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, man. Well, let's do it.
Yeah. We're actually already recording, so
cool.
Smooth transition. We're already here.
All right.
Episode 84 of the Gab Street Podcast. We welcome musician TJ George from Columbus onto the show today. How's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm feeling good, all things considered.
Yeah, man. I agree with that. I mean, there's lots of reasons to stay positive, right? Yeah. And, hey, man, if you got your health, you're doing all right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And, on the way up here on the arduous stair climb, we connected on the fact that we're both kind of silver linings kind of guys.
Absolutely.
And, we'll look for the goodness in anything. And, that an example of that with you is even from a published work of yours, a TEDx talk in Hilliard.
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
The largest curses can turn into blessings.
Yes.
And we call those bravery tests as well.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. I guess it all depends on how you decide you want to look at it. And by the way, you can decide on how you want to look at it. At least I've made my choice. And it's an active choice. It's a choice you get to remake every day because you have to, when you wake up every day, you have a choice to make, And so I'm very inclined to want to stay positive.
Would you say you found that internally, or would you say that
No, that's been work.
Yeah.
I think my default mechanism growing up, because of what I learned based on my family experience, that negativity was the default setting, and that I had to learn how to. And I've always been kind of the one of these things is not like the other one in my family. And because I was adopted, and so I'm not, I'm kind of, DNA wise, I'm not the same DNA at all. And, I mean, I don't want to go too into the weeds on this, but just one of the things I found is that I've made different choices, than essentially and when I speak about that, I mean I've made different choices in my immediate family. That's just how I did it. And so my default position by choice is positivity, and I'm glad I've made that decision. I think it's easier to go negative because there's certainly a lot of things that you could talk about that are negative and think about that are negative, but being in a positivity standpoint means that you're in an open stance, and open stance means that possibilities and opportunities come your way, and I'm a big believer of that. And I like to talk about high vibration too, which is, I think maybe even, I don't know what it is exactly, but I know that energy is real, and if you're in high vibration, you're definitely open to creativity and the good stuff that comes at you, and possibilities, solutions, all that stuff, problem solving, and it's pretty exciting when you're in that stance. And so I'm always looking for opportunities or ways that I can get closer to high vibration.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
I want to delve into that a little more because I've never heard of high vibration myself.
That's kind of a term that I use. I don't know if it's but I think people understand what. Do you kind of get an idea of what I mean by that?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it means different things to different people, but to me, what does it mean to you?
Just
when I say it,
having a propensity to view things more positively because you're just kind of already on that wavelength, if that makes sense.
It's absolutely 100% true.
It's like a default leaning.
That's right.
In a way.
That choice to be positive. So, for instance, I'm not saying I know anything about this other than the things I read and the things I experience, right? I'm no expert on anything. So we can just say that up front. But I will say this, that my experiences have told me that when you're in a no or negative stance, even physically, what do you have? You have your arms kind of closed, they're kind of bunched up, and you're covering your body, and they're folded closed because you're kind of covering yourself to everything that can be presented to you, and when you're in an open stance and a positive stance, you're ready to accept all the good stuff, that comes at you. And so physically and mentally and possibly even spiritually, however that works, but it is energy. And when you're in that open stance, it comes at you in a good way,
That begs the question, how do you interpret the difference between a positive person and a yes man?
Oh, well, that's easy. From my perspective, well, yes men are probably not independently directed. They're probably directed by others.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And a positive I'm not saying they can't be positive also.
Yeah.
But there's that's one distinction that comes to mind right away.
I see yes men as being a little more harmful because then
I would agree with that. Potentially agree with that.
Potentially. Yeah. They can be, if you're trying to do something right and you're trying to do it in a way where you're looking for tune-ups on your process, and you go to these people for advice, you're just going to get reinforced on your potentially wrong habits. So you're like, yeah, you're doing great, man.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, you're right. I think, and that's where the potential pitfall comes. It's possible that those folks who are yes men, I mean,
yes women,
yeah, exactly right. Yes people. Don't want to make a clear distinction there because yes, people come in all shapes and sizes. And I talk about that in that TEDx, and you have to be careful of wolves in sheep's clothing,
yes.
because that's that's a real thing too. You know, people. When I came into your studio, you said you wear your influences and on your,
on my sleeve.
On your sleeve, and I think that's absolutely true. You know, there are people who don't wear their motivations on their sleeve, and they have hidden agendas, and hidden agendas are pretty dangerous. Well, they can be potentially dangerous. You know that you're dealing with, and everyone has an agenda, I guess. Some are less pure than others, and you run into a lot of that, as you go through and I hate to say journey, but as you go through I like to say your story, because you do have a story that you're building. And I think you find that people do have agendas, and if you have had any opportunity to interact with a lot of people, you're going to find those folks, So,
who are some role models of yours that have helped pull you out of some of these pitfalls?
I have personal role models, that help me in my personal life. I have musical role models that help me in my musical life. And when I say musical life, there's music, influences, and then there's music business influences, and it is the business of music.
Yeah.
So there are people that I watch, there are people I listen to, that are savvy of the business of music. And I'm very careful about who those folks are, and I make sure that I've made my choices wisely, I think it's important to do that because, you have, your career is your career. What are you going to do with it, What are your choices that are going to make up your career, And, you can do it however you want, and then you need to find the people that are going to give you the advice that will help you, propel that forward. And I say, get the best advice you can from the people who have done the most and have the most experience in that space. I'm not going to ask someone who's never done the music business to tell me what they think about how to do the music business. That would be pretty stupid. I'm always fascinated by people that ask advice, but from people that don't have any idea the topic they speak.
Yeah.
In fact, that just makes them flat out dangerous. Haven't you seen that experience? Haven't run into that experience?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
frightening, actually.
It is pretty frightening.
But I didn't give you did you ask specifically who those influences are?
Yeah.
There are folks locally that I pay attention to.
Can I guess one?
What?
Can I guess one?
Sure.
JC Schnars?
Yeah, he's a dear friend of mine. He's a good guy.
Love that guy.
He's, there are good songwriters, and then there are just really good people. And talk about being open and an open stance, and positive. There's probably not many people who are more positive than that guy.
Yeah.
And he's a possibility thinker, and I think that's important. So he's a great human being, and we've done some writing together. But when I met him, I didn't like him because and it wasn't his fault. It was my fault because I had some stuff. I didn't trust that there was someone that genuinely positive.
Yeah.
I was always looking. There's
got to be a catch.
There's always someone looking. I'm a guy who's like, I'm not sure about that. And then I realized, no, he's genuinely that positive, and it's pretty cool. So that's kind of a cool thing. And there are other guys. There's a guy who's been around a long time in Columbus, and that's a compliment. When I say been around a long time in Columbus, because I think we need to wear, our experience, our positive and negative experiences, or our whole experiences on our sleeve as well. And, I think we should wear them as badges of honor. The reality is, and I've come to grips with the fact that I'm not 20 anymore. And so, as long story short, I'm a fan of a guy named Eric Nesda in Columbus. Yeah, he hosts a national PBS show called Songs at the Center.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And it's a major show, and
which you were on, if I'm correct.
I was on it at one point. Yeah, and I was honored to be on that. But yeah, he's a great guy. But from a national perspective, like, to learn how to do the business of music, and he doesn't even know that I did tell him once. He didn't. I'm sure he doesn't remember, since he has 1,000 conversations a day. But I told James Taylor that I watch him as someone how to be a human being in the music business.
Yeah.
Because being a human being in the music business matters to me. You know, I have to sleep at night. You know, and I'm a long distance runner, and I perceive life as a long distance pursuit. It's not a sprint. You know, that means treat people right, you know, build relationships, do the right things. That doesn't mean it's expedient, you know. I think. I don't know if this is true or not. It seems like it's true to me. It's been my experience that, you know, it's better to treat people, you know, kindly, you know, and not. So yeah, so there's that. I don't know. Seems like the right thing.
I'm an advocate also of just treating everyone with respect no matter what.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, this is a fundamental. If someone treats you with disrespect, it's always better to treat them with respect back. Because it's not what they're expecting.
Correct. Actually, that is the perfect response. Mm-hmm. And what can happen out of that? I only see only good can potentially come out of that, right? So you could turn them. Mm-hmm. To model what you're offering, you know, and they could end up becoming respectful, and
they probably don't receive much respect in the first place,
right?
If they're acting that way.
That's right.
So if you change that trend, that's changing their entire outlook almost immediately.
Yep.
You know, if you can just introduce a little bit of positivity into someone's life, who has been given just you know, pardon my French, a shitty deck of cards, you know.
That's correct.
That's just what you got to do.
Well, and there's no shortage of people getting, you know, a shitty deck of cards, you know, being dealt that. And, you know, we're living in a time where those things are at the forefront. But it doesn't change the fact that what do you do with those cards? You know, and what do you choose to do with those cards, you know? And I remember having a conversation with someone a long time ago that said about every 6 months we're handed a new set of cards. Our lives change at a rapid pace, you know, and if you think about where you were 6 months ago, where you are now, you know, they're different cards is my bet. Yeah. And so now what are you going to do? How are you going to play them? And so it gives us a chance every period of time to decide what we're going to do. So, which is kind of interesting if you're interested in being engaged in your own life and you perceive it like that. And I told you I geek out at being a process nerd, so I consider that to be a bit of a way of looking at the process, you know.
Same here. Yeah. I revel in the process of everything.
Absolutely.
Even seemingly super boring stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's fascinating. Mm-hmm. You know, there are processes that like we put our emotions into them as well, and sometimes we don't need to, like learning something new. There's a process that goes along with that, right? You don't know how to do it, and then
you do.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden you begin to do it, and you do it perfectly the first time. No, so you go through some trial and error. You read on it. You watch some YouTube videos. Whatever you do to figure out learn some things about that topic, you know, and then you decide, I'm going to take a crack at this, you know, and you may be modeling after somebody, you know, and then you decide, well, I've modeled that. Okay. How do I do that better? And then you do it better modeling it. And then you start to put in you into the process, you know, and then that's when it gets really interesting, you know. You can model it and then also make it yours. And how do you do it, you know? And how, you know, I was talking to JC about that. No one plays the guitar exactly like he does. Consequently, no one plays the guitar exactly like you do, the universal you, or the piano, you know, because your fingers touch the keys distinctly different because your fingers push on the keyboard in with a certain weight, intensity, velocity, and so you create a sound that is specific to you. So I think each of us are unique in that way. Sure, people can model that and do a tribute to you by doing your sound, but even then it doesn't sound exactly, because they're bringing themselves to model after you. So
that's true.
That's why bringing your own you to the process is fairly and always unique, if you do it right.
Mm-hmm. And how has that process manifested for you through your different musical projects that have been released?
So I didn't even realize this, and you kind of go in blind. If you knew everything that you were going to learn in this process, you would wonder if you would sign up to do it. I'm just kidding. Truth is, it's fascinating what you learn in the process, and I didn't know that I was going to create a sound, but out of simply playing the keyboard. I have a foot pedal I use as a kick drum trigger. When I play, I incorporate a harmonica into my performance. I have a certain way that I emote, I think I'd like to say hints of R&B, rhythm and blues, and the artists that I admire. And I've created a sound, a particular type of sound. I didn't mean to do that. It sort of happened. But what has occurred out of it is, and I get this a lot when people talk about what I do, is that it has a very distinct sound and people know it's me when I play. Mm-hmm. So that's a kind of, and it was not intentional at all. It just ended up happening that way. But I'm pretty happy with how that has happened, how that's transpired, and where I'm at now in that regard. What I'd like to do with it, where I want to take it, we'll see. But yeah, pretty excited about, where I stand at this moment.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what have you learned in the years between some of your releases?
Well, we were talking a bit about that. If I could release the first project again, I would redo some things, I'd clean it up. I wouldn't release it in its current state. It is out there in its current state. But I think that that's a testament to a work in progress, We're learning things. I didn't have a team around me to teach me, what to do. And so I did some things that were wrong, that we all do. And I would make it cleaner, It matters to play it right, It matters to give it your best representation. I think about the songs that I'm working on now, and we're going to have simply the best musicians that there are that are going to record the songs. So I'll finally get an opportunity to hear my songs given the best representation that they can be given. Cool. Put sort of a team of musicians together. It's almost like so I don't know, if you're a million years old like I am, certain bands like Steely Dan and Toto.
I love both of those bands.
Yeah, and I think those are the gold standard for players in a band, Mm-hmm. Steely Dan had a rotating group of musicians in that band, but Toto had these core group of players in this band, and I mean, they were everybody's studio musicians. They were always the band that the producer got to play on other people's tunes. Well, I feel like I've got, Toto quality musicians that are going to be recording my next project, and that is really exciting to have that, exciting. Because that means, well, what could those songs sound like,
Yeah.
And having world-class technicians do that, interpret those songs, it just makes it seem like the whole world's opening up to you,
So
give it the best representation.
Sorry.
No, please. Sorry.
So you've moved more from a soul player position into more of a maestro for this project, in a way?
Yeah, well, all my recorded projects have band, are full production, and in different states. I've had some sort of scaled back acoustic-y recordings, but they still had drums and bass and guitar on them, and keys obviously prominent in many because that's my instrument of choice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to have a band that's just like the best players there are is just very exciting. And yeah, now when I write, I think about, well, what are the arrangements going to be? Now I have a producer that is phenomenal. Happens to be the bassist also on the project, and he was just inducted into the R&B Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Yeah, and we were talking about that the other day. His name's Vernon Porter.
Okay.
He's an Ohio cat that is in LA, and he's played on everybody's thing. He just has this immense body of work. And we were talking about that. He was inducted for his body of work. And I thought, yep, that's what happens. You string these years together, and then all of a sudden you look up after all these years and you have this body of work. Someone had said to me, and I never thought of it like this, they said, man, you just have a lot of songs now. And I remember saying to them, well, I didn't write them all in one night. You can't do that. You just write. And you write and you write and you're committed to writing, and then eventually all of a sudden you look up and you have a bunch of songs, and then you have enough that you feel comfortable about performing live, and all of a sudden you have a show, and you string enough together and you have a good show, and so it's a process. Everything is a process. So yeah, having Vernon is absolutely amazing as a producer. But now when I write these songs, I think about the arrangement, and then I send him what I was thinking, and he says, oh, and then also you can do, and oh, what about if we do this? And then those conversations are fascinating.
I love when that happens.
Oh, and then that collaborative process where you just have these amazing conversations about, well, what could it be? Oh, what is it insinuating now? Oh, that's just wonderful. I just love that kind of conversation because it's possibility thinking to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and collaboration is always the best.
Yes, and
definitely.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, I could have just said that. Why didn't I just say that, man? Just thumbnailed it for you. There you go. Yes, and
the improvisational couplet. It comes with improv performance with comedy and with music.
Absolutely.
Some jazzy stuff. It's pretty cool. And audience, I have been to a show of his, and I assure you, it is good. So,
thanks,
if you get it, of course, if you get a chance, because he's doing some socially distanced shows now. Correct.
Yes, that is correct.
I would say pop out. What are some shows that you've been doing? Like, when did that start back up for you?
Well, I think we went through March and April, and I'm a little foggy on the timeline myself now, so forgive me.
That's fair.
It's like you get back on the roller coaster and you just start going.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometime in May, late May, I began to play again, and those first few shows were like, well, what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I think there's not a single person who didn't think that. Well, what's going to happen? What are we up against? But venues who are super professional about this really worked hard on following guidelines presented, and they knew that, artists were struggling in the process, and they wanted to get them back, to being able to do what they do as live, interactive as possible. I will say that these single camera Zoom, single camera social media performances.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great, but because it provides an opportunity to see artists in that setting. But I'm now to the point where I'm sick to death of the single camera show, straight at you.
Yep.
I really prefer not to have to see that anymore, and I prefer not to have to do that. Doing a show like that is draining, because a part of the energy that you receive back is from the audience, and you don't see the audience, and you don't experience feedback in a way that is like a live show in any way. So you're just pushing out energy to people, and you're not getting any back. So by the time you're done, you're so drained from a show, whereas you're drained from a live performance and interactive performance, but you're also elated from that performance because you've been getting energy back from the audience, and you can almost sometimes be more geeked up because of the energy that you get back.
It's like a circuit.
But it is.
It has to be a closed circuit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you're just shoving that energy out into, seeing where people can just tap a button to have a heart pop up if they like it, that's totally different. That's not clapping. That's not cheering, And that's one of the biggest challenges we're facing today. Even with this show, I was doing some remote interviews, and the very first one we did, thank you for dealing with that, Jared. I really appreciate you being a good sport. But staring at my screen and not seeing anyone and just asking questions to a screen it's surprisingly...
It's disconcerting, is it not?
It's crazy different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that, for my shows, in that regard, all my likes and loves and claps were all from Russian bots. So they weren't really real at all. They weren't even real people. So, I have a little making a terrible joke. I don't know where to go with that, but that's what happens there.
Gab Street is sponsored by author and certified life coach Michaela L. Thomas. Her new book, Stripped to My Truth, releases on September 24th of this year. The premise of this book resonates with me as someone on the path to becoming a social worker. This kind of open communication about the trials and tribulations some go through from an early age is important for people to hear who may have similar experiences themselves. Straight from her, here is a description of what you can expect from the book from her website. What would you say if I told you I was emotionally, mentally, and physically abused once upon a time? What would you say if I told you that I twice lost a child? Once at 15, and then again at 17 years old. How would you feel if I said my innocence was stolen from me by someone I trusted? Here I stand, from child to adulthood, encountering what seemed to be heartbreak after heartbreak, not realizing that I was cutting and bleeding all over myself. Why? Because hurt people hurt people. It took some dark valleys and long roads for me to travel through before it finally clicked to tap into my intentional healing. Loss of life, trauma, homelessness, and the list goes on. It wasn't until I began taking a really good look in the mirror and really sitting in my mess that I understood what was actually happening. Every light that casts a shadow never stays lit. Every character that plays their role will eventually fade. There's no amount of self-help books, audio, or videos that can or will change your life. At least not without your key star player, you. To truly disengage from every shackle that locks you into complacency and stagnance, and each hurricane of emotional turmoil that covers you, you must strip down to your bare naked truth. You can find that description of Michaela's upcoming book, Stripped to My Truth, on michaelalthomas.com. That's MICAELAL Thomas.com. Stripped to My Truth will be available for purchase on September 24th, 2020. On her site, she has a personal bio, which I will read for you now. Michaela L. Thomas is a wife and mother, co-captain of a large blended family. She parents 6 biological children, 4 stepchildren, and 1 bonus child with husband Kendrick. Born in March 1987, she grew up in East Cleveland, Ohio, to a single mother and loving family village. Michaela has always had a knack for writing. Whether it was poetry, plays, songs, books, or short stories, she was always able to utilize her imagination to keep her centered from the internal turmoil that brewed within. Eventually relocating to Columbus, Ohio, this is where she began discovering her various talents. The story of Michaela's life has been kept secret for the majority of her 33 years of existence. She has now decided to share her journey for the encouragement and betterment of others who may be suffering in silence. It is her hope to assist in being an advocate for the intentional healing of others through her own journey of self-awareness and manifestation. Now back to the show.
Hi, folks. Have you heard of It's All Been Done Radio Hour?
I don't think that I have. What is it?
It's a modern, geeky, scripted comedy in the style of old-timey radio serials.
That isn't a thing.
It sure is. Columbus, Ohio is home to the only show of its kind in the known world.
Aren't you exaggerating a bit?
I don't know. I don't think so. Every month, It's All Been Done Radio Hour performs a live show of new segments.
I am in charge.
No, you aren't. But that's Captain Kakay. He's the lead in Universe Journey, our sci-fi romp set in space.
I am not evil.
And his maybe not evil science officer, Lieutenant Commander Meow Meow.
Have no fear, the top-notch Tangler is here.
That's Ms. Kimberly Benson, who can transform into the top-notch Tangler. She has lots of powers, and she's really good at untangling knots.
Oh boy, do me next.
No, you're part of the top-notch Tangler. We've also got series about monsters and morning shows and saving the world and fairy tales and traveling through time.
I'm Detective Jake Cotton, and I'm looking for my ex's missing spot.
Oh yeah, there's a noir detective spoof too.
How do we find it?
You can go to itsallbeendoneradiohour.com for details about upcoming live shows and subscribe to the podcast of the same name.
Reddit the Green loves It's All Been Done Radio Hour.
And you will too. Pick one of our segments and start listening from the beginning, or just jump into our next live show. We'll catch you up. That's It's All Been Done Radio Hour live show and podcast.
Take care, everybody. Get home safe.
Well, on
sad attempt at humor.
Well, on our anchor page, it says we have some listeners from I think it says the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. So
Right on.
That might be a
Broadening the
bot.
audience.
I don't know, but
Who knows?
I think it's like one person.
You'll take it?
I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're actually listening from Jordan, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Right on.
But
Right.
that's kind of how it feels with the bots tapping the like. You know.
We'll keep posted to the webpage. We'll do a show as quickly as we can out there in Jordan.
Yeah. We'll get our travel ban lifted, and
Absolutely.
then we'll go over there. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a hike I'd be willing to make.
I think it'd be pretty cool to go out there just to see what's up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
On a more local topic, though.
Sure.
Somewhere not so far from home. How has Columbus as a city and as a community helped you succeed as a musician or even hindered you?
Well, let's just get it out now. I don't necessarily perceive that Columbus has hindered me in any way.
Okay, well, that's good.
I guess this would be a great opportunity to talk about. I mean, and this is really what I believe. Everything I've said is really what I believe. But I know that you are really engaged in the local community of Columbus, and I think that's a great thing. I like to think I am as well, but there's also a national component to what I do as well, and I feel like I'm talking to a larger audience, so that, and then of course Columbus gets hears and is listened to by me, you know. So, but I love Columbus. Like, it's a great city. People don't know that Columbus offers what it does. You know, it's like the 13th largest city in the country.
Yep. That's why I'm doing this show.
Yeah, man.
100%.
This city is really happening. The demographics are a perfect microcosm of America. I'm not interested in talking about politics. We could do that, but I don't want to do that. It interests me, but I don't want to talk about it.
That's fair.
But I will say that from a political standpoint, we're talking about a split here that is about as close, razor thin as you can get. So that's actually a good thing because, first of all, I like people and everybody, and I judge everybody based on knowing them, not on anything other than that. And they have an opportunity for me to like them based on who they are and what they are. And so razor thin is kind of cool because if we have this cool split, that means that you have an opportunity to experience to improve your people skills by being accepting and understanding and living with everybody, and I think we are the model for how to do that in the country, of getting along with everybody. It's an opportunity for us to do that. I like to think of it like that since we're glass half full people, right?
It's actually the first time I've heard someone say that about Columbus, that is a strength, that we're an example of how to get along from both sides.
Because it's razor thin split. I mean, it is almost 50-50, right? I mean, we know that that's the demographics.
Ohio in general, too.
I mean, say it again?
Ohio in general.
There isn't any 4-year period election time where this isn't spouted by an anchor at a major network, which is, so goes Ohio, so goes the country.
Yep.
And that is simply a reality. We decide, and I know, what's going to happen because I live here, and I'm always looking and I'm always paying attention and I always know, where this thing's headed based on. So I feel like we are at the head of the spear as far as the country goes, and if you want to know what's going on in the country, come to Columbus, Ohio, and you will find out what's happening in the country because everything is going on here, all of it,
Well, your favorite color being purple makes sense now.
Yeah, interesting, right? Very interesting. It's a great city to be in. Like, as far as arts culture, they always say that if you want to find out where a city is, check out their arts community because they're always leading. They're a leading indicator of what the city is, and that this city is happening as far as the arts community goes. And so, that's hip and cool, and I dig that. And I know lots of cities can have that, can wear that badge, right? So that's a good thing. But yeah, I really am proud of the city. The cuisine is extraordinary.
Agreed.
You can get anything you want and get the best of it. Business, this is like the hub of, in no way is this different than many, many years ago. This is, they say, if you want to start a business, start it in Columbus, Ohio, Peoria, Illinois, and Columbus, Ohio are the places if you want to test market something, because there's a saying, if it plays in Peoria, then it'll play in the country. It's the same thing here in Columbus. If it's going to work in Columbus, it'll work in the country. So that's why this is a huge test market city. And they know that. The businesses know that. And so this is super fruitful for business. Lots and lots of major businesses have started in Columbus nationally, and we could go through a list, but I would be remiss in naming some that we should name and we didn't. So I won't go into that. But yeah, so business-wise, it's great. Again, demographics-wise, it's great. It's everybody. Yeah, so it's everybody and everything all in one big pot, and it's awesome. Yeah.
So the city's happening, and there's something you also want to make happen in the city that isn't there yet, but you're working on starting a nonprofit. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have started a nonprofit with a focus on addiction, and even more specifically, young people who have been addicted for the first time and don't know where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to do to try to get the help they need. Yeah. That's a real thing. There's always things that come along with this homelessness, and issues in that regard, and then crime that always precede drug abuse. And many times, if you're first addicted, you don't even know where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. And this is an opportunity for us to try to take this folks, like, if you've been addicted and been through recovery, and they say that recovery happens on an average, it takes 7 times to kick, which, by the way, we can have a separate conversation as to why that is and what we can do to improve that. But there's nothing you can tell someone who's been through recovery 6 times what they need to do, because they know what they need to do. But the first time, they don't know what they need to do, and they've never done that before, and they need as much help and as guidance that you can provide, So that's an opportunity,
Cool.
And it's something that is needed more, that more is needed. Yeah.
So you feel like the system currently in place is catching people at the end where they need to be catching people near the beginning of the process more?
I think more things need to be available at the beginning.
That's fair. Okay.
And we talked, we haven't talked about it here, but my previous world corporate-wise, I was an engineer, IT engineer particularly. Engineers have a strange brain. They ask questions like, isn't there a better way that we could do this? And are always looking to streamline things and make things better. Well, so then I come to the table asking that question, isn't there a way that we could do this better? Not saying that there's a silver bullet, but there are things that we could do. Maybe there is a silver bullet and we haven't found it yet. Mm-hmm. So that means that, fresh eyes can, maybe be able to see something that people who've been doing this for a long time are so in the weeds now and may not be able to see. So I think it's good to ask that question. And so I'd like to take that approach to the process. I also want to find people with the nonprofit who are particularly interested in asking that question. Is there a better way? Is there another way? Meaning, are there another set of tools, or is there another tool that we can add into the mix to empower those addicted to recover faster, stay recovered, and have a better shot at staying in a recovered state? We all want that. I think we all want that for the addicted. It only helps the addicted, and it only helps everyone else in the process, because families that are experiencing someone addicted go through hell as well. Mm-hmm. And this is an opportunity to minimize their amount of hell.
This really resonates with me because I am in college to become a social worker right now.
Okay.
So
God bless you, man.
Thank
Good
you.
for you for doing that. I just think that's amazing work.
I appreciate that.
So incredible, man.
You're speaking my language right
Yeah.
now, 100%. Yeah. So if there's a way I can be involved, let me know, please.
Absolutely. Well, the thing about it, going through this process, and I'm a data nerd, along with being a process nerd, I am taking all of that information in, and I'm, this probably wouldn't surprise you now, knowing that we've had these conversations and talked about different topics, but I think things are connected. Mm-hmm. We just don't know how it's all connected, and we're players in this, game, and the thing about it is there may be a role for you. I just don't know what it is yet, and it's like everyone you come across, I feel like there's a reason. We just don't. I mean, I'm a big believer of meaning, finding meaning in things, and I'm sure you can come from the place of it's all random, but I really do think that there's meaning to be taken from this experience, and so I believe that we do things for a reason, and when you're in alignment and authentic, those signs come to you. And I wouldn't consider myself to be smart, but what
smart people say.
I don't know about that, but I do know that I'm trying to figure out the pieces, where the pieces go in the puzzle, and it's like I look at songwriting like it's a puzzle that you're trying to put together. I look at our lives like, these are the components. Oh, this is supposed to go here. I didn't see that before, Oh, it's taken me 4 years to see that. Why did it take so long? But I'm just glad I finally found it. Okay, great. Well, that's neat. That's supposed to go there. He's the person that's supposed to do that. Oh, that makes sense now. She was supposed to tell me that. Oh, that makes sense now. I know I'm taking it to the nth degree, but you get where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do believe in that, so.
Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely following you on that. And even if, let's say that technically there aren't meanings inherent to things in life.
Sure.
It's human nature, first of all. Our brains are going to apply that anyway.
Yeah.
Why not let that be the meaning that is inherent,
Sure.
I mean,
Interesting.
The way we see the world makes it real. So...
Yeah, and reality is how we decide we want to see it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So it's its own thing. Everyone, reality is a bit of a sliding scale, don't tell that to someone who's positive that their reality is 100% truth and there's no way to shift that. It's a sliding scale based on how you decide you want to see reality, and we're presented that all the time in different ways. So
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, man. Wow, that's heavy.
That is pretty heavy.
It's heavy for a morning conversation.
I think that's the heaviest we've gotten on the show. Cool.
Right on.
Sweet. Well, in your lived experience that is on a sliding scale, what's a lesson that you've learned through that experience that can't really be taught to someone? It has to be internalized. Like learning by doing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have. I'm not trying
it's a hard question.
I'm not trying to dodge the question, but I can talk about a larger thing if you don't mind.
Sure.
That just kind of comes to my brain off the cuff, which is I was doing an interview a handful of years ago, talking about my songwriting. In music, youthfulness is appreciated. Introduction to youthfulness, new artists, and I get that. The great introduction of new artists to the mix of the whole is a good thing, and I think there's too high of a premium, though. That being said, I think that there's too high of a premium on youth trying to tell us something, always being able to try to tell us something. I'm not saying that youth don't have a lot to tell us, because they absolutely do, but youth makes mistakes in the process too. Youth creates hubris that shouldn't be there, because one of the things that I wear on my sleeve now is, in reality, is that I'm not 20. I didn't know anything at 20, but what made me dangerous is I thought I did, which is good in a certain case, because it causes me to charge head first at 100 miles an hour at the wall, but also I'm moving, and that's a good thing, and you're moving in a direction, and you're learning, because you do hit your head on the wall, and then you go, well, I maybe don't want to do that again, and then you learn something. I've learned things over the years, and you do learn things, and I think I've been married and divorced. I can speak about that topic. If you're 20, you may not have that experience. And not having that experience means that you can't speak about it with the authenticity that I can, because I've experienced it. That's just called living, and there's things that have happened in a life, in a life lived that you go through stuff and you learn from it. And I feel like I'm learning, and I'll learn many things over these months and years to come that I don't know now, but I can take what I've learned over the last 20 years and do something with it, something positive, And I have my energy and my health right now that I can take advantage of it. I've been given capacity, so I want to do something with that, So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yes,
it kind of covers some topics related to it.
Yeah. It answers the premise of the question, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
So we'll go with that.
I mean, I still have a positive outview of it, of relationships, but I can speak about it in a different way than I would had I not been divorced, So, yeah. So, provides new insight. That's all.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool. We've talked about some of your guiding principles and some that we share. Other than seeing things in a glass half full way, treating people with respect, always learning from your experience, what are some of your other guiding principles, if you have any off the top of your head?
Well, so along with the theme of getting older or being older, a little bit older, not old, just a bit, I'm not young, which actually is a great position to be in. I'm somewhere in the middle, and that provides me some value, I think. But along with that, authenticity and telling the truth out of necessity, because I have a terrible memory, and lying means that you have to
you have to remember what you
said. You have to continue to remember the lie, and the reality is that I'm terrible. I have a terrible memory now, and so I have the same conversations over and over again because I have guiding principles, and they are, and I believe in them, and I speak about them enthusiastically, being authentic. I'm an autobiographical singer-songwriter, and so I genuinely and generally speak about my life and what's going on in my life at this current time. Or going back and taking a piece from my past experience and what I've learned from it. And you have to be aligned right to do that. I think you do. I mean, I guess you don't have to be, but it sure helps if you are. It helps me to be aligned right. I know when I wasn't aligned, and so I can speak more authentically, and my songs are more authentic now because I'm aligned right. And I know where I want to go with the songs, I know where I want to end up, yeah.
Cool.
But I don't know if I really covered like some of those guiding principles, but authenticity, being aligned right, honesty, kindness. I have a dear friend who's an incredible singer-songwriter. She doesn't know she's getting plugged on the show because I didn't know I was going to say her name, but Shiloh Hawkins is an incredible singer-songwriter. Incredible singer-songwriter, and I mean, she's going to be something. She's already something now, but she's going to be big, in my opinion, whatever that means, whatever big means. But yeah, she's got so much potential as a singer-songwriter, and just like she has this magnetic energy that people want to be around her and love her and know. When they know her, they just are in love with this human being, this great human being. And
did she open for? Did she play at the same show at Rambling House?
No, she didn't.
All right, I think I have some
But she's done
stuff.
lots of stuff, and we've done stuff together, and
Okay.
we're playing shows together, and
Cool.
just trying to figure out ways in which we can be around each other because we like each other a lot and we understand each other, you know. And I'm trying to remember why I plugged her and where I was going with that. Kindness. She talks about, one of her songs is called Telescope, and it's about being kind. You know, that's what we have to leave behind, that we have an opportunity, you know, and that's really one of the things that matters is what are we going to leave behind, you know, a legacy that matters. And I think there are worse things to be called than being kind, right? Don't you think?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So those are some of the things. You know, and I'm sarcastic by nature, which I'm constantly working on. But, you know, I kind of, a little bit of that I like, you know, so I'm not sure I want to give it up. But I always looked at people who talked about simple principles as a little bit, you know, it's a little too simple for me, you know. And then I realized, no, not at all. The simple things, the guiding true simple things aren't necessarily easy to do. They're simple to say. They're really hard to do.
Yeah.
But they are very real, you know, and they have lasted the test of time for a reason, you know, because they are true and they're real, and they seem to rise to the forefront, and kindness and honesty and you know, treating people with respect and dignity and staying positive in the face of adversity, you know. Not having gone through things is not the badge of honor. Having gone through things with, you know, a degree of grace and just being able to weather things, you know, with character. Those are our lessons and principles, you know, because we're all going to go through stuff. And it's how you ride out those, you know, losses, those valleys that you're going through, you know. So
you can only control your response.
Yep, absolutely.
That's true.
You say everything I say, but you say it better. There's this great line from The West Wing. I'm a fan of The West Wing.
I've seen a little bit.
Aaron Sorkin's an incredible writer, and there's a line that he gave to the president that said, you know, if I say with, I'm going to get it kind of wrong, but the general concept being, you know, if I use 10 words to say something that I could have used more words, then I just wasn't trying hard enough. And I thought that was great. Great line.
A tradition in our family when we're having conversations with people is to just consolidate language.
Well, see, it's a great gift. The elevator pitch.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Boil down. I remember telling this guy, he goes, well, tell me what your music is. And I went into this long diatribe of what my music is. And he goes, what did you just say? After I was done. And he said, I don't have any idea what you do. And I thought, oh, okay. And he said, what does your music sound like? And then I gave him a couple artists, and he says, this is what you say your music sounds like, you know, and then gave me these artists, and because people need guideposts, you know, so that they can make a determination of what that is they know, you know, and assign you to that, which, by the way, is really limited thinking in my way of looking at it. But also the reality is that's just a simple reality that people, and that's how our brains work, you know, and we need a place to compartmentalize or give it, you know, a place to slot it, you know. So
I feel the exact same way about what you're saying, because not everyone's going to put in the effort that you do to understand your own work.
Right.
So you have to give them those guideposts. You have to give them those seeds first, where it's like, yeah, I kind of sound like this artist. And you're like, Okay, and that enables them, that opens the gate for their effort to be put in.
That being said, I'm also fascinated with anyone who took more than a few seconds to figure out what my music is anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like I know I've figured it out or tried to figure it out or I'm still figuring it out, but I'm fascinated that there's anyone who would take more than 3 seconds to try to figure out what my music's about, you know? So, you know, that's always a stunning experience, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's another way, and it's very humbling, you know, that someone would be interested in figuring out what my music's about, you know, figuring out what I'm interested in or where, you know, what my music represents. So,
and the fact that that's a humbling...
I'm sure you feel that way, same way about
Yes.
your podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It comes in the way of, like, that speaks to your derived value from what you do already. That you're doing it for the sake of the music and yourself, and you're not doing it for the approval of other people.
Yeah.
And when you receive that approval, the fact that you take that as a humbling extra, like, you know, icing on the cake kind of experience, just speaks to how true you are to what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Well,
feel
thanks.
the same way about what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just always stunned that, I mean, I do my music because I'm interested in doing it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who is also interested in it that's a bonus, you know? And it's great that there are people who are interested in it. It never, I don't create songs because I think that someone will like that. I create it because I like it, you know? And then when you get feedback on it and they like something, you know, that's fascinating to me and humbling, and because you never really thought of it like that in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's always nice, and it never gets old. That's a nice feeling.
It does never get old. Yeah,
Right.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a couple more questions for you before we wrap up.
Please.
We are at about... Oh, we've hit an hour. Cool. This could be a long answer question or a short answer question.
What would you prefer?
Well, let's see. What are some stories from the best and worst nights of your career?
So I was just having this conversation the other day about bombing on stage, which is the greatest thing that could ever happen to you. Like the first time, even though you don't perceive it as the greatest thing that could ever happen to you.
Benefit comes later.
It absolutely comes later. So that experience, let me describe a couple of physiological responses from this experience, and see if it sounds familiar. But cotton mouth, sweating, feeling like you feel like you're 1,000 degrees, feel like you are horrified that you're in front of a crowd, you feel naked. It continues to snowball, you know, your voice cracks, you hit the wrong keys or you play the wrong strings. Everything that you say just doesn't quite connect or hit the audience, you know, when you're talking to them. You know, anything less than a banana peel being thrown at you is, as far as I'm concerned, a bomb, you know, where you just crashed and burned that night. And I perceive that as the best experience that you could have, because what you realize is, and I know this is, I'm not saying this in an original manner because I think I've heard this, but you didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't die, then that means that you can handle it and that you're going to be fine, and that it's just something that happens, and it won't happen nearly as bad the next time. And it doesn't. You don't go through the same experience the second time, you know. It's so there you go, you know. So I actually perceive that as a good thing, you know, especially if it's a long distance race, you know, and performing is if you're going to do it as a career, you know, you're going to do it a lot. So the sooner you have that experience, the better. You know, it toughens you up. We're all trying to figure out how to get toughened up. That's certainly one way.
I mean, when you run 15 miles, you might, roll your ankle a little bit on the way.
Another favorite topic, running. Yes. Yeah, we were talking about, I ran 15 miles last night, and
then
that was my first time. Oh, that's all good, man. That was my first time doing that. I'm all about having these new experiences. So, I'm committed to having new experiences, and I haven't run that far. That was the first time. Hopefully, by the time this thing airs, I'll run 16 and 17.
Cool.
But yeah, so I'm training for a marathon. Which stinks this year to try to figure out a way to train for a marathon because it's a virtual marathon.
Oh, really?
There are no scheduled marathons right now.
Yeah.
If there are, I don't know about it. So I'm going to investigate that further to find an actual marathon where people are gathered. Probably not a good idea, though, to have that many people gathered, but I have to figure out well, I'm not an expert on that either. So, but
well, when you say virtual marathon, is it like you're on a treadmill and you're just tracking yourself, or
not on a treadmill? But you're the one responsible for tracking yourself.
Okay.
And then they're trusting you to say, you're given they'll have the event, they'll give you a bib. That's what they call those. The
numbers.
The numbers,
yeah.
And then it has its own little. Electronic device in it, and so you have that, but you're tracking your own, course so that you can get 26 miles in. Oh God, 26 miles. But yeah, that's kind of how that goes. And so you're responsible for telling them what you did, and so it's a kind of, independent process. And I want the experience of being around all those people when I'm running. Mm-hmm. And, when usually there's bands that are there performing, when you go by mile markers and people who are cheering you on that simply are great human beings that come out to cheer you on, encouragers, which is, we need more of those in the world, and we need them on the side of the road right now cheering us on through life, and when you're running a virtual marathon, that isn't there for you, and those things are encouraging, and they give you energy, and they fill you up, and I want to experience that as a part of my marathon. So I picked the wrong year to decide to do a marathon. But, I don't know how many years I've got, so I kind of have to do it while I can,
That's fair.
And I'm feeling pretty good right now, so I might as well do it, right?
Cool.
So I better do it now that it's on a podcast, so better get it done.
We'll hold you to this.
Yes.
We'll make it a fundraiser.
All right, absolutely.
That'd be a lot of fun.
That. Absolutely, it would be. Yeah, and in fact, I'm going to think about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right on.
And I would say that this is the best year to have a building year, though. I wouldn't interpret this as
That's a great point.
Like, doing the preparation now is the best way to do it, because you're going to have that crowd that's even crazier on the other side of this, because they haven't been able to do that in a long time.
I was talking about this last night. Things are going to be worth the wait.
100%.
The feelings that we're going to experience on the other side of this, and I know people are like, well, is there the other side to this? And I like to think that there is. And the things that we will experience, the good things, after some of this is dissipated, is extraordinary. And so having to wait a bit longer just makes the feelings more intense and exciting when we finally do experience them. So we're all having to learn patience in this process, and I don't necessarily know that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also think that one big lesson that even just as a nation we're learning is America's always been a super individualistic country. That's what we were founded on. Do it yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, per se. And through this, we're learning a lot about the importance of collaboration, especially in person. Yeah, we can do Zoom collaboration, sure, but it's, to put it simply, it's kind of garbage. So we're realizing the importance of, at least balancing individualism and collectivism in this country through this experience, I think. And we're going to come out of it with a lot more people collaborating with each other.
I think that's fair. You know, you have independence, you have, codependence, and then you have interdependence. And I think interdependence is the place to be, where we need each other.
Mm-hmm.
You can be your own autonomous thing, but then you put that autonomous thing into the other working parts and you work collaboratively together. I think there's places for all of that. I think that's the sweet spot. So yeah, I'm a big fan of interdependence. And I always thought that, I can do it myself. That was the badge of honor, and badge of honor seems to be the phrase I've used over and over again on this podcast. So
it applies.
Who knows why? But I'll think about that later as well. I've always thought of it like that was the coup de grace. That's the sweet spot, but it's not. Interacting with others as your own individual, and figuring out that we do need each other. There's the strength is being able to ask for help, and I was always previously before, I can do it myself. I don't need your help. And the reality is maybe you don't, but there's a sign or sense of strength that comes from asking for the help. And when you ask for help, you're given 100-fold back in how you receive it and what you learn from it, and so we need each other. If there's anything we've learned from this is we need each other.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And with this show as well, I've considered having people take over, part of editing and, part of some of the technical things. And I'm like, oh man, I don't have money to pay somebody to do that. Like I'm sitting there thinking that, and I realize I've been doing this for no pay for a long time. Why can't someone else, if they believe in it as much as I do, if I can get lucky enough to find someone.
You'll find your people. While you're going through your story, you'll find people who want to, who believe in what you're doing as much as you do, or certainly close to as much as you do, and they'll be there to help. And I think it's designed that way, man. I really do. I think it's designed that we find our people, and that's what makes those folks special, because you don't know who they are until they sort of present themselves into your world. Finding your fan base is not easy. You have to go out and find your fan base.
Yep.
If everyone liked your music, then special wouldn't be special. So special means that you have to go out and specifically find them.
That's true.
So yeah.
Well, how can my audience find you and support you?
It's a cool question. I have a webpage, tjgeorge.com. I maybe make an opportunity to talk about the nonprofit webpage as well. And it is, the organization is called Demand Impact. And the webpage is demand-impact.org.
Okay.
And you can go if you believe in donating to the cause of youth addiction. We're going to make a national difference, and I really believe that we are with this cause. We'll help locally and we'll help nationally, and so if you're so inclined and you're one of those folks who doesn't know what to do with their money, and you need to give it to a cause that's worthy, I definitely believe that this cause is definitely worthy, because it certainly isn't about me. I just feel like I'm a conduit that's been trying to do something on this topic. So yeah, so that's a webpage where you can do something. But yeah, my music, tjgeorge.com. I can also say I'm all on most of the other social media platforms. I have a fan page on Facebook. I also have a personal page, but find me on the fan page. I have an Instagram page.
At TJ George Music, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Instagram? Yeah, at TJ George Music. You'll find me. and come find me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's been great to hang out with you, man.
You too. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Do you have any last minute shout outs before we wrap up?
No, but thank you for inviting me to do this. This is really an
Of course.
honor. I think what you're doing is fantastic.
I appreciate that.
You are filling a niche in the marketplace, because I think more people need to talk about this community and what's happening in our city, and you are doing that and putting a positive light on. I mean, you're not looking at it totally through rose-colored glasses at all, but you are talking about the positive things, and you're talking about, the real things too, and all of it needs to be talked about. As long as someone's talking about it, I think that's the most important thing, right? And you're bringing awareness to people, and that's important.
Thank you.
There's something here of value, and I love that you believe in it, and I'm with you on that. So
Thank you.
yeah, man.
Very nice. Well, thank you for listening to episode 84 of the Gab Street Podcast. As with every week, we'll be back at you 6 a.m. on Wednesday next week. Thank you very much.